essentially, we really appreciate your youthful zeal, but in a few years, you'll learn, the rest of us, that it's just not
worth it.
It's not worth it, not be possible to maintain that level of zeal and earnestness.
Can't be done. Well, not an 11th batch.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not wrong. If the batch is full of 11 and 11's the whole batch, or God's wrong, which one? 11 does leaven the whole batch, which means, zeal for the Father's house is doused with buckets and buckets of ice water. So of course I'll never be any more than you are if I hang around with you.
Mm-hmm.
There's the problem.
Yeah.
You're 11, and if I hang around you, I'll be 11th, and I'll be just like you. You're right. But on the other hand, Hebrews 3:12 through 14, if we admonish one another daily, call alongside one another daily, the same way a child learns how to walk, learns how to talk, immersion. Jesus did immersion with the 12, and the 12 with the 120, and the 120 with the 3,000, the 3,000 with the 20,000, daily in public and from house to house, devoted to the apostle teaching, breaking bread, prayer, counted none of their possessions as their own. They lived their life the way Jesus did with the 12. Rise up, sit down, walk along the way, day by day by day. No holy days. I fear of wasting my time on you, Paul said, because you have holy days. Well, that's a waste of an apostle's time. If you're still going to try to turn Saturday into a Sunday holy day, it's a waste of my time, saith Paul, who never, ever subscribed to the idea of Sunday morning services. So, the idea is that it is true, learned hopelessness, Seligman's dog, is an issue if we hang out with 11, and it's a Sunday morning attendance-based, program-based, clergy-based environment. We will be leavened, and if we're leavened, we will end up being just like them. They're not wrong. Learned hopelessness. We will give up too, just like they did, because they hung around with all the wrong people for ascribed meetings and times and places. But God doesn't live in buildings built by men's hands. That's what got Stephen stoned.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last thing he said before stones started flying at him, because they wanted God to live in buildings built by men's hands on a certain day of the week in a certain place. But my kingdom is neither here nor there, it's within you. And it's contagious. If I can get inside of you and you can get inside of me, it's contagious. But we've written that off the books. Seligman has locked the doors. Well, here's the funny part of that story. When the University of Pennsylvania researcher and his assistant, Meyer, I think his name was, when after the dog had just laid down on the job and given up, learned hopelessness was the word the researcher used to call it, PhD, smart guy. After they just quit, he opened the doors. They just laid there anyway. They had so learned helplessness that even with the door open, they wouldn't leave anymore. So what does that tell you about the generation of the 11th batch and the Krishnamurti World Bank vice president who said, go ahead and give up on all the people over the age of 26 because it's learned hopelessness. They're never going anywhere. It's going to take a new generation of people that don't care about the risk, that haven't given up, like Seligman's learned hopelessness dog. Those people who haven't already learned how to give up might just embrace a valid thought. If the door's open, they're going to run. They're out of there. They're going to be honest with their scenario instead of giving up.
Mm-hmm. But not only does leaven the whole batch, but I've seen it on the opposite side when there truly is light all around, when the community of believers that you're functioning with really are bringing light and exhortation and that walking alongside on a daily basis. That light really can, I've seen it myself where if I was starting to go down a path of making poor choices that, were not making Jesus happy, the the brightness of that light, and the even other people dealing with things in their own life, it really did shine light on those shadows that wanted to exist in me, but allowed them. It just motivated me to want to be different when I was surrounded by light. Whereas if you're surrounded by leaven, there is no motivation. There is no standard to live up to. Nothing that kind of inspires you or draws you higher. So, anyways, the City of Light has definitely made all the difference for me.
Well, the same guy who wrote recording Jesus' life in the Gospel of John, this is the verdict. Some love the light, some hate the light because their deeds are evil. They don't want to come into the light. Others have the humility to say, I want to change. This is the verdict. Boom. Some love the light, some hate the light. The same guy who wrote that said, if we walk in the light as he is in the light. I mean, it's in 1 John, like a whole bunch, long gap, at least in number of pages. If we walk in the light just as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. So the relationships and the light are intimately connected. It's not just me and my Bible. It's just not me and hearing God's voice, me and having a conscience or a seared conscience. But it is the process of iron sharpening iron and admonishing, being called one alongside one another daily. It involves that fellowship in order actually to be able to apply the light. Otherwise, we're self-deceived. That's exactly what it says in Hebrews 3. We're deceived if we don't have that kind of relationship where other people with other gifts and other insights and levels of maturity and, just the momentary inspiration of God to be a priest to another priest who might return the favor tomorrow or by the end of the day. But that process of fellowship and walking in the light together are intimately connected. So while you could say John chapter 3 sounds like an individual thing, this is a verdict, some love the light, some hate the light, that's not what John meant to say as he reflected on it at age 90 later on Patmos. He said, this is about fellowship too, because it's not easy to walk in the light by yourself. That's not how it works.